Hello everyone and welcome to the Python for Data Science. My name is Moise and I will be your instructor for this course. And this course will be covering the basic Python concept and most popular Python data science libraries. Let's go ahead and take a quick look on how to install Anaconda. But before that, I would like to tell you what is Anaconda. So basically it's a distribution of Python, and when we say distribution, that means it's actually not just including Python, but it's also including lots of libraries and tools that we are going to use in this course. It's essentially an all-in-one install that's extremely popular in data science and machine learning. Alright, enough with the theory. We are going to download Anaconda. So go ahead and go to www.anaconda.com or just simply Google search Anaconda, hit enter and select the first link and should end up at the same page. This page actually updates itself quite frequently, so the style may change and you may see a different view. At the top bar, click products and then click on individual edition. It will take you on the next page where you should see download. Click on the download button and it will take you to the bottom of the page. Here you have the option to select installer according to your OS. The one thing you need to make sure is that you select the correct installer for your operating system. So right now I have a Windows computer, so I will choose the Windows installer for Anaconda. Now if you are on the Mac OS, go ahead and choose the Mac OS installer, and for Linux, go ahead and choose the Linux installer. There is a graphical installer and there is a command line installer. The graphical installer is a lot easier to use because it has a little window that pop up and show and tell you what to do as you go along. So I would recommend to use the graphical installer, and it is easy to install. So after the download, just go through the instructions and I'm sure you will be done installing it properly. So once we install Anaconda and get Python up and running, it's actually going to come with a development environment called Jupyter. Jupyter is a development environment where we can write normal Python code, but what's really cool about it is that it allows you to display images and then write down markdowns as a notes all within the same notebook. If you've been searching for Anaconda on your computer, you should see a couple of options shown up. One way is that type Jupyter in the search and you will see the Jupyter Notebook coming there. The other one is Anaconda Navigator. We will come back to this in a while. Let me show you another way. The third way is using a command prompt. Here I am at my command prompt, and as a reminder, if you are using the Mac OS, go ahead and just use the terminal for this. So type Jupyter space notebook and hit enter and it will start the Jupyter ID. I am going to take you through Anaconda Navigator. So let's close this. Open the Anaconda Navigator. It will take some time, so wait for it. And once it is open, you can see a bunch of applications shown up, and essentially this is a really convenient way of opening up your develop environment. And you will notice that Anaconda actually comes with several development environments which are already installed in it. It comes with Jupyter Lab, VS Code, Spider, Jupyter Notebook, and many more. The one we are going to use in this course is the Jupyter Notebook. Keep in mind there is a Jupyter Lab which looks really similar, but we will actually use a Jupyter Notebook. So what we want to do is go ahead and launch Jupyter Notebook. So click here where it says launch, and then what's going to happen is you should see a browser window pop up. It will take some time to load, and here we can see that Jupyter Notebook has automatically opened up in my browser. Now if you don't have Google Chrome as your default browser, I would highly recommend you to use it, because that is usually what works best with Jupyter. So you notice that Jupyter opens up in my browser. Something I want to clarify is that you do not need to be connected to the internet in order to use Jupyter. You will notice that I basically see all the folders that are on my computer. I can see my desktop folder, my documents, and my downloads. Go ahead and find the folder in which you are going to start your project. I will choose a folder from my desktop. Let's select that, and let's go ahead and create a notebook and get a feel for how to effectively use them. So here, click on new, and you can see a list of Python versions available in your system. In my case, I have two different versions installed, 3.7 and 3.8. For you, it might be just one. I will choose the version 3.7. You can select any of the available version on your system, and finally it will open a notebook for you. Here you can see the notebook is running with the selected Python version. To retitle this notebook, you just click here and name it whatever you want. My notebook, for instance. Click OK and it will name it. Let me go ahead and show you the basics. So this is a code cell, which means I can type in Python code into the cell and then run it as a very basic example. I can say hello world, which is one of the basic thing we run, and then I can run the cell by clicking here on run, and it will go ahead and run and show me the output below the cell. So you don't always have to come up here and click this run cell. Instead, you can simply press shift enter and it will go ahead and run whatever is in that cell. Let me show you again. So I put it as a string shift plus enter, and when I do shift enter it will go ahead and run whatever is in that cell. That's a really nice way to just run stuff quickly, so you don't have to constantly come over here and click run cell. In the output you can see out coming there. So if we print, let's say hello world, shift enter, it printed the output, but it didn't show out since I didn't actually specify to print the output. However, it showed the output cell. Another little trick is alt enter. If I do alt enter, it will actually insert a cell below it as well. So notice the difference here. If I just do shift enter, it will run the cell, and if I do alt enter, it inserts a new cell for me. And you can see this number shows you the order of stuff and how it's been run. Let's add another small chunk and see what is the next number of the step. So let's add 1 plus 1. Now run the cell, shift enter, and you can see the output 2 and the step is 6. So this is just an introduction to Jupyter features. So don't worry, I will show you in details about how to write code and what is the syntax for Python. Now you may be wondering, how can I save this notebook? Actually, it has a cool autosave feature which autosave the file after every 2 minutes. We can also do Ctrl S to save the file, or you can click this little floppy disk to save. There's one other way. Go to files and you can do a save and checkpoint here. Now you may also be wondering, how do I download this notebook as something else? Well, you can just go to file, download as, and there you have a bunch of options to download. If you just want to download py file, you can just say download as a .py and it will download and convert this notebook file into a file so you can use it as a normal Python script. Or if you just want the HTML, you can click on HTML and it will export it to a basic simple file that any browser can show. So you have a bunch of options, you can go in and check them out. Okay, something else I want you to know is, if you ever have, for instance, an infinite while loop running, so let's just say this is like running forever and you want to somehow restart your kernel. So how are you gonna do that? I'm going to write a small infinite loop and will show you that. So I is equals to 0 while I is greater than -1 and I is equals to I plus 1. Let's run this. Hit shift enter and instead of a number, here you will see a low static. It will just be running forever. What you can do is just go to kernel and then restart the kernel. So hit restart. So basically what happens is that this notebook is connected to a kernel and a kernel is an instance of Python running. And if something's wrong where Python is crashing, or maybe you actually wrote a script that just infinitely loops or take a really long time, you can always just stop everything by coming over to kernel and clicking restart. There is another really awesome feature in Jupyter Notebook, which is you can type in notes for yourself in normal markdown text. You can come over here, look on code, click on markdown and it will convert this into a markdown cell. And now if I run the cell, it's essentially just basic text for me to type notes for myself, which is really useful when you are learning. A really nice way to kind of take notes as you go along through the lecture, and this also support a markdown formatting. So to select, double click the cell, and if you are familiar of markdown formatting such as how to use hashtags for bold, you can use them. Now we won't go over markdown syntax because it can be a whole another course, but just keep in mind, if you see something like this, type markdown and latex that say it's a markdown cell. A common mistake sometimes beginner do, and they say that they are trying to run this code but it's not running, and actually it is a markdown cell. If your code is ever not highlighted, it probably means that you are only running a markdown cell. So you can see the difference. The code cell is highlighted and when run it shows the output, but the markdown is not highlighted. So if you want to change this markdown cell back to a code cell, just come up here at the top, select code, and it will be converted into code cell. Let's make this a string before we print the output and run this with shift enter, and you are good to go. So that is it for now. In the next lecture we are going to look into the basics of Python. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and see you in the next lecture.